Near a shadowy ocean, faint glimmers emanate from an abandoned building, serving as the sole source of illumination. Inside, the atmosphere is alive with deafening cheers as a crowd gathers, watching two women fiercely battle on the ground. The event is an underground face-to-face combat, called an underdog fight. The crowd is not happy with the fighters uselessly dragging on the fight. One of the fighters, Kawakita Itsuki, whispers to her opponent that she should just give in because the audience is getting annoyed. Tenma Nozomi, her opponent, just tells her to pay attention to the fight, which annoys Itsuki, and she suddenly taps out. The unexpected result completely shocked the crowd, and everyone started shouting about how the match was fixed. Another person who was not happy with the fight result is underdog fight promoter Mark, as he fires both of them immediately after the fight. Tenma seems shocked by his decision, but Itsuki simply walks out, declaring that she will never come back here again. Tenma complains that she should be fired because Itsuki was the one who accepted defeat first. Sighing heavily, Mark replies that the crowd has zero interest in her fights. Tenma is livid to hear his reasoning and angrily starts arguing about how she is a rookie and a 3-on-3 fighter with a good record, which should be enough for the audience. Mark replies in an equally angry tone, saying that the audience wants to see fights with a clear result. Just today, she dragged the fight for 40 minutes, which can't be accepted. Lowering his voice, Mark asks if she knows why the lightweight and women categories are not that popular in fighting. When she replies that it is because of fewer cause, Mark agrees that the audience wants a crude fight with a great result. This is the reason middle and heavyweights are more popular categories. This is a more common requirement in underground fights than in public fights. So when people come to watch fights at an underground organization, they forget about the rules and just want to see brutal fighting. His organization specifically doesn't see the customers with a posh taste the way popular underground organizations do. Mark continues that women's matches especially need a touch of erotica, and Tenma's fights are neither brutal nor erotic. Looking glum, Tenma comments that it looks like the audience just wants a show instead of real fighting. Mark replies that it is sad, but it is the reality, and this is why he thinks Tenma's skills are more suitable for professional fighting. He suddenly stops chatting and just tells her to leave the club. Tenma finds herself jobless at 27, so she decides to go on a liquid therapy session with her friends to wash away her woes. Her friends point out her clearly worse condition and scold her for spending all her fighting money on drinking. Hina, the Jinguji family's boss, and Tenma's friends try to comfort her by saying that she shouldn't lose hope like that. The other girl, Iori Ichika, a Metro PD in the juvenile division, instead offers to overthrow the underground organization. Tenma denies her offer, pointing out how being an underground organization means that they don't have any specific place. She also reminds her friend that she is a cop, but Iori just ignores her, saying that she is here with a mafia boss and an unemployed person, so she doesn't care about such things. Tenma argues that being unemployed is not illegal while thinking about how she has been with Iori since elementary school. Back in the day, Iori was a detective with the anti-organized crime unit. In a profession largely dominated by men, Iori chose to let her actions speak louder than words. Despite this, she often found herself overexerting to achieve the results she wanted. Eventually, she had a fight with her boss and ended up beating him almost to death. This was when she transferred to the juvenile division. Even though they had reassigned her, ultimately they just wanted to control her. Recalling all the information about her friend, Tenma suddenly asks her if she is willing to go back to being a detective again. Iori determinedly replies that as soon as she can solve a high-profile case, she will be back to her old job. Laughing at her comment, Hina says that she should just declare that she will not go back. Tenma's attention is suddenly diverted toward her other friend, Mitani Hana, who is from a self-made Yakuza group called the Jinguji family and is the daughter of a former boss. She transferred to their school in middle school and somehow ended up being the third person in their group. She had just joined the Yakuza after finishing school when suddenly the former boss died, which pushed her into taking over one of the weakest Yakuza families. It is obvious that the gang has no unity and is losing members continuously. Hana can only earn a minimal income while staying in the background. She seems exhausted by all the work as she shares with her friends how the mafia business is very difficult and she doesn't know how to earn more. She adds that things were a little easier for her when Aoi was still a detective. She sharply replies that it is because she misused her friend's privileges and then turns toward Nozomi, asking her what she is planning to do now. She replies that she doesn't have any plans while she dives into her own story. When they were in high school, there was a martial arts gym near their school. Their trio decided to join the gym, hoping that they would get thin. Eventually, the other two left the gym, but she kept going there regularly for a long time and ended up as a professional fighter. She was mostly in upper-class cage fighting, competing domestically in good organization, and was a good fighter. Just when she was about to get picked by a major organization, her career suddenly ended because of her detached retina. At the time, she left public fighting but couldn't completely give up her fashion, so she decided to continue fighting in the underground organization. Looking at her trio now, she can only think that they are just a bunch of losers. Soon they leave the cafe together, and Hina suggests that Tenma should search for a part-time job to earn some money. She even offers her a job, explaining that she just has to transport suitcases from one place to another. When Tenma doesn't give her a positive reply, Hina continues that if she wants something more prominent, they are always in search of new people at their associated shops. Aoi argues that Tenma can't work in anything like that, suddenly remembers something, and she asks Tenma to assist her until she finds another job. She explains that they have a huge amount of confiscated goods, and she is selling those goods to people in need. Annoyed, Tenma replies that there is nothing good about criminal activities. Even though she looks irritated with her friends, she is still worried about them and tells them to slow down with their illegal activities. Their discussion is interrupted by a street fight breaking out in front of them. Tenma looks confused about the fight, so Aoi explains that they are just kids who like to mess around. Tenma doesn't think they belong to a gang, and Hina agrees with her, saying that there are a lot more people like that showing up these days. Aoi explains that these kids are mostly minors, and it is her job to take care of such trashy people. Still, she can't do much about it now that the department is keeping a strong eye on her actions. Hina points out how there are only girls in the group that are fighting. Aoi sharply replies that this is just a small fight between female groups, and there are a lot of male idiots wandering around too. Hina thinks that these people are acting crazier because Yakuza can't meddle because of anti-Yakuza organizations. Looking extremely annoyed, Aoi adds that everything will be sorted out if these people just murder each other. As Hina reminds her about her oath, Tenma asks Hina if she can use these kids for her illegal work. Hina instantly replies that it is impossible to control such people. Aoi agrees with her, but she is also thinking of controlling these children somehow because it might give her a big jump in her career. Aoi ends the conversation by saying that they don't have to worry about it, and all three of them move to their next drinking destination. Later that night, Tenma is back at her house and can tell that her friends are really suffering today because of the way they keep drinking. She recalls their annoyed comments about their work, but she can't do anything about it because of her problems. There are only a few underground fighting organizations that accept women fighters. Furthermore, underground fighting is the lowest step of the fighting, and she even got fired from that. Now lying on her bed, she keeps thinking about how there is an organization in Osaka that is rumored to take in women fighters. It really annoys her how female combat is just getting more popular in public fighting. After turning and tossing in her bed for a moment, she suddenly sits up straight, getting hit by an idea to solve all of their problems in one go. The next day, Tenma meets up with her friends again, and they all go out to a music club. Her friends seem to like her idea because this place is mostly soundproof and all kinds of crazy people are gathered there. Hina thanks her for suggesting this place, in reply to which Tenma reminds her that they are just here to check it first. She is also worried about getting caught, but Hina assures her that they are safe because she asked an outsider to connect them with this club. Since this place doesn't fall under a specific party's territory, no one will be disturbing them here. Satisfied with Hana's answer, Tenma turns toward Aoi, asking her to report on performers. Looking really enthusiastic, she replies that everything is done and she has gathered some really crazy people. The first person she chooses is Julia from the east, the street-fighting chica. The next performer is from the west, the Pummel Queen, and her name is Yumi. Yori further tells her that these girls were fighting at the club the other night. She promised to let them handle their issues without any intervention from the police, and they immediately agreed to do this. As expected, all of their friends came to watch the fight, and now the town looks more peaceful without all these crazy people on the street. Hina is still pretty impressed by Tenma's suggestion to start an underground fighting club only for girls. Looking very proud, Tenma replies that it will give them a good source of income, and keeping these crazy people here will also help reduce the juvenile crime rate. She teases Aoi about how she will get the credit, to which her friend replies that all of them will benefit from this. Instead of arguing about that, Tenma says that they just need to make sure this arrangement stays a secret. Aoi assures her that they have checked everyone and will hold their phones until they have to leave. They stop talking and instead focus on the girls fighting brutally in the middle of the crowd. People are shouting at them to hit each other and don't hold back at all. The fighting continues until the referee stops them and declares the girl from the east a winner. Tenma and her trio are very happy with the great response they are getting from the audience. The events continue until all 4 matches are finished with loud cheering from the audience. After their first successful show, the 3 of them gather in a Chinese restaurant, discussing how everything went well. Hina is happy that all of them have earned some money, and Aoi also agrees that this is great part-time work. She is also happy about how no one is saying anything about this on social media, which only means that her threats worked well. Hina comments on how threats from police scare people a lot, and if they keep going at this rate, they can do this regularly. Speaking for the first time, Tenma quickly dismisses her, saying that they can't go that long because people will get bored quickly. Aoi doesn't agree with her because they saw how wild the crowd was today. Tenma argues that it was because of the first show, and today the fighting is similar to the underground organization she just left. The fighters were just throwing blows without any particular technique, which is completely opposite of public fighting sports. Even though the brutal fighting is covered up for that bit, it is not going to work for long. The other thing is that today the crowd mostly consists of the friends or acquaintances of the fighters who don't have much money. If they really want to run this organization well, they need customers who have more money. Her friends are surprised to know that she is thinking about establishing a proper underground fighting organization. Tenma elaborates that today's show was not that bad, which means that they have a chance to make this an even better thing, so she doesn't want to miss this chance. Yori hesitantly agrees with her suggestion, but she is still confused about what they have to do. Tenma understands their confusion, so she suggests that people like to see erotica so they can dress up fighters in cute outfits and hire pretty girls as staff. Hina asks if she should call some beautiful girls from her associate shops. Tenma permits her to take care of that, and continues that they need to focus on software now that the hardware of the events is taken care of. They need to find fighters who are not only strong but can also pull people in like magnets. Tenma asks Aoi if she knows someone like that. At first, Aoi refuses, saying that she doesn't know anyone like that, and that if they want crazy people, she can provide a lot of that. Taking a long drag from her cigarette, she adds that they can't be choosers. Her eyes open wide as she suddenly remembers something and announces that she knows a very wild fighter. As the sun rises again, the 3 of them are sitting in a vehicle parked in front of a school that Aoi introduces them to, Koyo Girls Academy, specifically for posh people. Hina is not sure if this is an appropriate place to find a wild fighter, but Aoi just tells her to drive quietly. Their bickering is stopped when Tenma points out how Aoi didn't share any information about the fighter. Aoi replies that it is because they will not believe her and then points to a girl walking in the crowd with her friends. Everyone focuses on the girl as Aoi tells them that she is Hina, also known as the deadliest schoolgirl in Japan, and is so wild that she can even overthrow the government. Hina bursts out laughing at her explanation, which just annoys Aoi, and they start bickering again. Hina puts on her serious face and insists she has better things to do than entertain this nonsense. However, when Aoi points out that she's currently unemployed, Hina falls silent. Aori's expression turns grave as she probes. Do you guys know about the Army of God? Her friends tentatively suggest it might be a radical religious group, but Ichika quickly corrects them. She reveals it's actually an ultra-radical religious cult, dropping the bombshell that her info comes from a sketchy acquaintance under police protection. 3 years ago, this religious cult was planning to use chemical weapons to make a huge terrorist attack. Their plan was a coup d'etat, calling it salvation to mankind. Just hearing about the chemical weapons and terrorist attacks is chilling to Yori's friends. She quickly reminds them not to blabber this to anyone, as they don't know the consequences. Tenma brings them back to the topic again, asking how the police prevented the attack. Aoi replies that it wasn't the police and they stopped because the leader, Takahashi, died just before the attacks. After their leaders passing away, they lost their focus and the internal fights tore the cult apart, which is why their plans were unsuccessful. At that time, Hina was just 14 years old and her last name was Takahashi since she was the adopted daughter of the cult's leader, Takahashi. According to Aoi, now Hina is adopted by some wealthy people and has changed into a pretty princess. Hina is shocked to know that a 14-year-old was forced to be a part of the cult. Aoi explains that even though the cult ended with its leader's death, the police will monitor everyone involved for the rest of their lives. She also heard the leader was determined to start a coup against the government, and his followers had military-grade weapons. They were all trained to be professional fighters and spent all their lives training with deadly weapons. Naturally, Takahashi also trained his adopted daughter and had her master combat training. Now, all the special members of that cult are under the police's special scrutiny, and Hina is also included in that, but recently the higher-ups ordered the police to stop watching over Hina. Hana is really confused to hear that, and Tenma comments that it might be because they realize she is not really dangerous as a minor. Iori breaks their delusions as she explains how a former cult member gave an anonymous testimony. He told the police that the leader was very determined to bring salvation to mankind, but he only started preparing for a coup after he adopted Hina. The new information comes as another shock to both girls, as Iori further explains that it is not certain, but if they relate it to the latest order of stopping her surveillance, it all makes sense. Tenma decides to take quick action as she steps out of the car, wanting to dive into it right away. She calls Hina, who was just passing by their car, and asks if she wants to play with her for a bit. Hina maintains her innocent looks as she replies that Tenma can die while doing this. Nozomi ignores the death threat from Hina and kicks her in the shin without any warning. To her shock, Hina easily blocks her attacks, which makes her realize that she is good at this. She instantly goes for another kick, and this time, Hina doesn't only block her attack, but returns it with a spinning roundhouse. Internally, Tenma is panicking about how fast Hina is and can't even comprehend what kind of torque force she has. Still, she keeps her calm, as Hina innocently says how it is amusing because she thought Tenma would be slow, but she was wrong. In a sing-song voice, Hina suggests that they should continue this, but her sentence is interrupted when something hits her back and she falls to the ground. Behind her, Iori is standing, holding a shotgun in her hand, and commands that they should start moving. Soon after that, they reach into an abandoned warehouse, and Tenma instantly goes to nurse her injured hand, worried that she might have broken a bone. When Tenma comments that this kid is crazy, Iori just retorts with how she has already warned them about it. Hana is worried about getting in trouble, but she doesn't say anything about it. Just then, Hina, who is tied to a chair, starts speaking about how they can't be from the police because they wouldn't do something like this. Iori shuts her down quickly while whispering to Hana to stay quiet because Hina didn't see her. Hina speaks again, saying that Iori must be from the police but has a different department. Hana gasps in shock, receiving a death glare from Iori, while Hina continues how she can tell these are aluminum cuffs, so she guessed the police. She adds that they shouldn't try to hide the third lady because she can recognize their footsteps. Stepping closer to her, Iori tells her to stop acting like a detective and asks if she knows what kind of trouble she is in. She threatens to arrest Hina for the assault, but the young girl stays calm and replies that it was just self-defense. Iori smugly replies that there is no CCTV on the street, and it is obvious that everyone will believe the words of a cop. Hina just mocks her in return, saying how she must have worked really hard trying to catch him. Iori seems satisfied as she tells Hina how they are in control of her life now. A cold smile appears on Hina's lips as she comments that she is the one in control of their lives now. All three of them shudder at her comments, specifically Ichika, who suddenly realizes something crucial. They know that the cult, the Army of God, was working on chemical weapons. When the cult ended after their leader's death, it is said that the chemical facility was shut down and all their weapons were destroyed. However, the cops from the police department share a different version, which they are sure is true. According to them, some of the chemical weapons were taken from the facility before the police destroyed everything. Iori is wondering if Hina is the one who has lifted those chemical weapons because in this case, it makes perfect sense that they were ordered to end her surveillance. Just then, Hana whispers to her that they should leave because Hina looks very scary. This makes Iori more determined to keep this a secret from her friend, or else she will get more worried. Hina speaks again, saying that she is willing to do anything they want from her. All three of them just stare at her in shock as she calls the person who has dodged her attack, saying that she is curious about her. She was really surprised because the first time someone had blocked her, they eliminated her slow poke. Suddenly, she stands up from her chair and continues that she can't see Tenma's next move, which is very intriguing, so they should keep fighting. Out of nowhere, she raises one hand, showing her uncuffed hands, and adds that she also wants to continue her school while working with them. Startled Hana stares at her hands and notices how she has dislocated her thumb to get rid of the cuffs. Slowly removing the blindfold from her eyes, she politely asks them what they want from her. That day, someone has been captured, but it is not clear who. One thing is certain, their lives changed completely after that day. On their next show at the club, Aoi arrives a bit late and asks her friends about the audience. Hina informs her that a lot of people have shown up, and some people from the other night have also returned. She decides to show it to her friend and opens the door, showing the hall bustling with the crowd. Today, they had organized the inaugural show for their underground fighting club named Valkyria. A happy look crosses Iori's face as she guesses that there must be at least 200 people here, to which Hina replies that there are 221 people, including staff. Looking across the room, Iori comments that it feels a little weird to see beautiful girls moving around this place, but Hina doesn't agree with her, thinking that it is essential to attract customers. Just then, Tenma walks over to them, saying how she also wanted a fighting ring but couldn't arrange it for now. Iori instantly assures her friend that it is fine and tells her to look at the huge crowd instead. Continuing the conversation, Tenma thanks Iori for bringing a good fighter, to which Iori replies that she has to bring a good opponent to battle against the brat. Just then, Hina barges into the room, just as the announcer thanks everyone for being patient and introduces her as the Revolution Princess. Upon her arrival, the crowd instantly starts whispering about how she is wearing the school uniform. Meanwhile, Iori is curious about her Revolution speech and her wearing the school uniform. Hina replies that they will prepare a special costume for her the next time. Tenma is still sulking about not having a proper ring but gets distracted when she notices the other fighter walking in. The host introduces the other fighter as the hair-raising killing machine named Momose Mihina. Staring at the trio, Mihina is surprised to see Iori working with an underground fighting club. Iori also recognizes the fighter and tells her friends that she has arrested Mihina before. Even at that time, Mihina was ready to do anything she asked for. Iori ignores another sharp comment from Hina and just explains that Mihina was a top 16 judo contestant in Tokyo tourneys. She dropped out of high school and instead got admission to Rokushin Kaikan, eventually rising up to first dan. Just knowing the background information about her gives them the idea of how tough she must be. Soon the referee takes her position while the host announces in the background that the first match of the Valkyria organization is about to begin. At the announcement of bets from the host, Hina asks her friend if she has prepared the special coupons. Tenma shows her the special coupons, telling her how she prepared the coupons for 5 and 10,000 yen. They are planning to let the customers buy these coupons to use for betting because if they use cash for this, things are bound to get messy. They are interrupted when Iori suddenly snatches the bills from her hand, saying that these bills are useless on their own. They can make things better by letting the customer take these bills to organization-approved second-hand shops where they can sell them for a good price. Looking at the situation, if police ever got a whiff of this organization, these bills wouldn't count for anything, so they have nothing to worry about. In the next moment, the host announces that the fighters are ready to attack. When the referee signs them to start, Mihina attacks first, but Hina easily dodges her attack and in return punches her in the chest. Everyone stops breathing for a minute, waiting for the result as Mihina falls down with a scream and can't stand back up. The audience is left shocked as the referee announces the end of the match, declaring that Hina has won with just one blow. Startled, Iori starts rambling about how Mihina is a trained fighter and can't lose so easily. Hina politely tells her friend that it is very obvious that Hina is above all these fighters. The result leaves Tenma stunned and worried about finding another opponent for Hina, knowing that no one in their small organization will be eager to fight her. Their conversation halts as Hina grabs the mic, beaming with excitement, and declares it the start of a perfect revolution. Hina and Iori exchange confused glances as Hina addresses the audience, asking if they enjoyed the show. She then admits her disappointment with the fight, saying she had hoped for a faster opponent, leaving the audience puzzled. Suddenly, Hina waves a stack of bills in the air, announcing she has 5 million yen to give to anyone willing to challenge her. Tenma and Iori immediately panic at her bold offer, noticing the crowd growing restless, while Hina views it as an exciting turn of events. She points out that it's rare for an underground organization to offer such a high reward, and the money will likely attract skilled fighters. Meanwhile, Hina eagerly anticipates how many fast opponents will step forward to take her on. At the Metro Police Station, Superintendent General Masaharu is saying he has heard the strange news about Iori being in contact with Hina and wants to know what she is planning. Iori smugly replies that she doesn't understand what he is saying since she is only meeting her because they know each other personally. In reply, he asks if she wants to return to the gang unit because he can arrange it for her. Understanding the underlying threat, Iori quickly clarifies that it is nothing major and she doesn't want the cops to meddle with her personal matters. Masaharu doesn't argue with her further, saying that he is not concerned about the underground fighting organization as long as they are not doing something malicious. Without arguing further, Aoi assures him that she will keep a strong watch on Hina, and adds that she also has another favor to ask. Masaharu has already expected this much, so he tells her to speak, and Aoi starts explaining that there is a list of highly dangerous criminals that only the higher-ups like him can access. She wants to take a look at the list for personal matters, but will never do anything malicious with it. After leaving the office, Aoi walks in the corridor, thinking back about Masaharu saying that he will talk about this in the agency meeting. Even though she is not happy with his answer, she decides to focus on the more important matters for now. She can admit that the only thing she did was mess around with a supposed innocent student, so it was obvious that it would get the superintendent's attention. Now it looks like the rumor is getting a lot of attention, which means that Hina is very useful and she has to take advantage of her as much as she can. On the other side, Tenma is eating out with Hana and tells her how they wouldn't be able to run Valkyria for long if things stayed the same. Hana is startled to hear the assumption, so Tenma explains that they need to change something or they will lose their momentum slowly. Hana is still not convinced because they are earning good money every day, and even now they are having lunch at a fancy restaurant. Tenma is still skeptical because their club is mostly depending on Hina at this point. At the start, when they announced 5 million yen as prize money, they had gotten a lot of fighting requests. She tried her best to find a worthy opponent for Hina, but she ended her next 2 matches with just 1 blow. After the next 2 fights, the tide of fighting requests has died down as fast as it came. She shares with Hana how no one is strong enough to fight against Hina, since the next fighter against Hina is a professional boxer. Hana is sure that this match will last for a long time. Her words are proven to be wrong at the next match when Hana wins again with just 1 blow. Tenma is annoyed with the result and finally decides to do something about it. After the fight, she approaches Hina in the locker room, saying that they all know how strong she is, but she still has to drag the matches a little bit. Hina calmly replies that the crowd likes her matches, but Tenma still thinks that the crowd will soon get bored if she keeps going like this. At Hina's question, she explains that when people are betting money, they must get to see a close fight. If one opponent is immensely stronger than others, then no one will bet on them. Hina innocently asks if she wants her to slow down with her fighting. Tenma quickly clarified that that is not what she meant, but the organization is a business, and they need to make money from it. Since they are not a public fighting organization, their matches need to be more on an equal level. Hina calmly replies that if they want more even matches, then they should just bring the fighters who can stand a chance against her. She adds that it can be someone like Tenma, and then suddenly kicks her hard in the stomach. Furious, he instantly sends back a punch, which Hina easily blocks and praises for how strong she is. Tenma takes a few steps back, telling her to slow down because she doesn't want to fight, but Hina keeps moving forward with her fist raised. She comments how it is rare to see a slowpoke like her being so strong. Her words trigger Tenma, but she still refuses to give in and fight with her. Hina wants to know how she can convince her to fight. Still angry, Tenma replies that she is not against fighting. Quickly understanding her meaning, Hina suddenly asks if they are not curious about where the chemical weapons of that cult are. Hana and Tenma's eyes bulge out due to shock as Hina once again challenges her to fight. Tenma finally agrees to fight with her, and without wasting any time, they start exchanging blows. Staring at them from the side, Hana recalls how Aoi told them that it is most likely that Hina has access to the chemical weapons that were stolen. Even though Aoi is not sure if their suspicion is right, she still thinks that if they can solve this case and find the chemical weapons, the police will be indebted to them. Coming out of her thoughts, she looks ahead, where Tenma and Hina are still trying their best to get a finishing hit, but both of them are quick on their steps. Hana can't help but notice how Tenma is still very skilled, as she is correctly predicting Hina's move. Just then, Tenma avoids a punch from Hina and dives down, wrapping her arms around Hina's waist and quickly pushing her onto the ground. She puts Hina's leg in a tight lock while saying how she is extremely strong, which has also become his weakness. Keeping them both on the ground, she asks Hina if she ever really met a worthy opponent. Without waiting for a reply, she further continues that only aiming for bigger blows creates a loophole, which is why she can easily look through her moves even though she is not that strong. Hana chuckles at her reply and tells Hina how Tenma is just being polite. She shares how Tenma is a professional MMA fighter, which is why she is more experienced than her. Tenma's eyes widen in shock as Hina harshly pushes her foot in her stomach while saying that if Tenma is not her match, it doesn't mean she is not skilled. Continuing, she asks Tenma if the one-hit KO is her weaker point. To her surprise, Tenma once again blocks her attacks, which just excites Hina more because she is now really excited to actually fight Tenma. When she asks the fighter if she is now ready to be in a match against her, she replies that even if she wants to do it, this is as far as she can go. Pulling away from her, Tenma stands back up and explains how she has a detached retina, which is also the reason for her retirement. Since she didn't want to stop fighting completely, she joined the underground organizations, but now she is not strong enough to fight against someone who is at the peak of her youth. Ignoring her long explanation, Hina just comments on how she finally understands what feels different about her. Confused, Tenma continues that she is trying to say that she is weaker than Hina and is only having the upper hand because of her experience. She almost starts rolling on the ground as she says how Tenma doesn't take credit. Since she is acting so humble, Hina thinks that she should bring a worthy opponent for her since they obviously want to know the location of chemical weapons. Later, when they inform Aori about her offer, she is having a hard time believing that Hina actually mentioned chemical weapons. Hana repeats that Hina offered to tell them the location of weapons if she lost in a fight. Aori is really happy at the new progress and cuts the call, saying that she is already on the case. After hanging up the phone, she turns toward the people in front of her, asking if they have finished their food. She knows that this is not a very great place to eat, but she is sure they can wait on fancy food until they win the big fight. Just then, 2 giant women step in front of her, asking if she is serious about them getting 5 million yen if they manage to beat the girl. Aori replies that it is true, but they shouldn't kill her. She also warns them not to take her seriously because that girl is crazy and even defeated a former boxing champion with just 1 blow. With matching sinister smiles on their faces, the girls confidently say that they are still active in the scene. Aori is satisfied with how the Hina sisters have shown up at the perfect time because they are her best choice to send against Hina. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, 2 people are sitting in an office and the man asks the girl if she really wants to leave them to join a small organization. The girl, Yuzuha, replies that her people are strongly inclined toward money, so she needs to win those 5 million yen. The former cult members have different opinions about their leader's death, as one of them refused to believe that Takahashi had died. According to him, their leader has just left this world to become God, and no one can stop the army of God. Some of them remember Hina and speak nice things about her. Some of them believe that the government has killed their leader, while others refuse to say anything about the cult. Since their plan was almost successful, a few of them believe that Hina is perfect to continue the mission, and they are sure she will soon restart from where the things were left. After meeting with all those people, Aori is losing her mind and wishes to beat each one of them. Hana is calm as always, as she reminds her friend that police officers are not supposed to say things like that. At her friend's request, she has talked to all those former cult members, but she still doesn't know why they needed to do that. Aori calmly replies that a cop is not allowed to organize an informal interview. Hana is shocked to hear that, so Yori quickly assures her that the interview is not official, but she has gotten permission from the higher powers. When Han asks if they are trying to find the chemical weapons, Aori replies that mostly it is that because now it is clear Hina knows something about it, and they can't just leave her alone. It is also impossible for her to steal those weapons alone, so they also need to find out who their acquaintances are. Somewhere else, Hina is throwing harsh punches on a strange punching bag, making holes in the thing. They continue the conversation as Hana points out how every member has nice things to say about Hina. Aori replies that it is because she is the boss's daughter, but Hana doesn't agree with her because the members who left the cult also had the same opinion. Aori still doesn't get her point, so Hana instead asks if everyone who met her may have a good impression of her. When Aori instantly replies that it is not possible, Hana continues that no matter how famous someone is, there will be people who hate them. Hana ignores Aori's complaints about her harsh comments and just says how it is weird that every single person who meets Hina has liked her. Aori finally agrees that she has a point, even though she is still pissed about the insulting comment. Hana finally acknowledges her complaints, saying that people are bound to go against her because of the way she speaks. Aori doesn't argue further, thinking that there is something else that is bothering her, and decides to dig deeper into this. On the other side, Hina has completely torn down the bag while wondering if everything is going to be alright. She is hoping that Tenma will make sure that she is enjoying this a lot because if she doesn't find the next fight intriguing, she might leave this entirely. Meanwhile, sitting on the floor of her room, Tenma is drinking continuously while thinking hard about who to put up against Hina next. Her first choice for the fight is Yuzuha, as she feels that it is fortunate that Yusufa decided to join them, so she should be the next one fighting. On the other hand, she also doesn't want to ignore the Hina sisters. She is sure that Hina will be happy in a 3-on-1 match, but she doesn't find it suitable. After thinking hard about a possible solution, Tenma finally comes up with a good idea. When she meets up with Hina the next day, she suggests that they will have a tournament. She looks really proud of her idea as she explains how they will organize a tournament with 4 participants, and the winner will get 5 million yen. Tenma further tells Hina that they already have the other 3 fighters, and she will surely love this. Her words are proven true when Hina suddenly hugs her, saying how she was right to trust her. When Tenma presents the idea to other fighters, they all agree without any hesitation, and Valkyria starts preparing for their first tournament. Soon the day of Valkyrie's 5th event has arrived, and the place is bustling with people. The host sounds really excited as he introduces the Psycho sisters, Riko and Riko, saying how they go into every fight with full force. The next fighter he introduces is Hina, praising her for her undefeated streak and for being the most popular in the club at the moment. The last person to get introduced is Yusufa, the female champion of an underground fighting organization called the Ball of Slaughter. The host continues how these top 4 fighters are gathered here now for the tournament, and everyone is curious to find out who will emerge as the winner. The mastermind trio closes their ears as the crowd erupts into loud cheering, shouting the names of their favorite fighters. Hana and Iori are startled at the intense reaction from the audience, but Tenma seems really excited because she wishes to hear this loud cheering. Just then, Iori notices how they had removed the cage tonight. Hana reminds her how the last time the matches were just dragged uselessly, so they removed the cage to add a new ring-out rule even though they barely convinced their friend. Tenma further adds that they will cut the payment of anyone who is dragging the matches, which is unfortunate, but they have to keep the club running. They all turn their attention toward the fight as the host announces the start of the first round of the tournament. Nimura, the host, and the referee shout that the first match will be between Riku and Hina. Both the fighters are really excited about the match, and Riku looks particularly confident as she asks her sister if she knows what they are going to do with the prize money. Riku just tells her to not get too confident because they still have to win the tournament. After admiring Riku's swagger, Hana nudges Tenma to grill Iori about his sister. Iori, always quick with a comeback, calls them both nutty but legit fighters. It's all in the family, really. They may share a fighting style, but their bods are what set them apart. Even though they are practically giants, their fighting skills are really impressive, and they are immensely talented, so it shouldn't come as a surprise if they beat up Hina. According to her, Hina's sisters have some really great physical capabilities. For example, Riko can finish the 100-meter race in just 12 seconds, and her sister has a record of just 11 seconds. They don't just have strong legs because, in junior high, Riko made a new record in women's javelin throw in her first track meet. Similarly, Riko has led her school's judo team to the top 4 at the national level even though she had no professional training. With the exceptional skills they have, they could have mastered any sport, but instead, they decided to use all their potential in fighting. Sighing heavily, she adds that it is hard for her to handle them both together. All that information is shocking to Tenma, because Iori is the strongest among the 3 of them, so if she speaks so highly of the Hina sisters, it is clear how dangerous they are. In the ring, the fighters are ready to attack, and Riku menacingly declares how she is going to end her. Hina sings back that she is waiting for that and instantly raises her hand to block the attack from Riku. She also throws a punch back, but Riku doesn't go down with one hit, and they start exchanging blows. Just the first few seconds are enough to hype up the audience as they notice how Riku is not defeated with just one blow and is fighting against Hina. Iori is really proud of her discovery and asks about Tenma's opinion. It is clear to Tenma that Riku is not the usual fighter, and the way she dodges the blows from Hina shows how strong she is. Looking at the fight, it looks like Riku has planned this from the start. Just then, Riku grabs Hina by her shoulders and headbutts her with full force. She falls to the ground with blood dripping down from her forehead, but she doesn't waste any time before standing back up. Glaring at her menacingly, Riku says how fighting is all about who is more mentally strong. Despite her forehead bleeding, Hina stands back up with a soft smile on her face but doesn't get a chance to gather herself because Riku welcomes her with a strong kick. Instantly, Riku throws another punch, but this time Hina manages to dodge her attack this time. Everyone is shocked to see this new progress because Hina seems to be having a hard time up until now. Tenma realizes how Hina is quickly learning Riku's lighting pattern. The match continues as Riku delivers a perfect knee strike, which Hina blocks without any effort. Once again, Tenma figures that Hina is gaining momentum now and feels really jealous of her fighting instincts. On the side, Riko is proud to see her sister's performance and is sure that she will win the match. Riko has always been good at doing everything, and she can master any new skill in no time. Hina finally seems to understand something, but she still doesn't attack with full force. The MC excitedly elaborates on how Riku is moving forward, and it looks like Hina is hesitating to face her. Riku sends another harsh kick toward her opponent, and this time Iwari is sure that it must have hurt. She seems really excited to see her fighter getting the upper hand. Riku continues to throw attacks non-stop, eventually setting the ground for her famous technique, Carnage Rush. The audience has started to grow more agitated, including Iwari, who shouts that Riku should force Hina to reveal the location of chemical weapons. Hana quickly silences her idiot friend, while Tenma is still wondering if the match is really going to end this easily. They don't know for sure if Hina will tell them anything about the chemical weapons, and since she is the only famous fighter of Valkyria, it wouldn't be good if she lost. Hina finally retorts by sending a strong punch, but she is so fast that the only thing people see is Riku stumbling back. Riku is also surprised by Hina's speed. Yuzua doesn't seem happy about Riku's lack of attention, but she can admit that the other is a good fighter. She is also impressed by Hina's amazing defense, noticing how she has dodged almost every blow from Riku. With a gentle hum, Hina boasts to her foe about being the speediest gal around. She boldly proclaims her imminent victory, giving Riku permission to intervene if she dares. As Hina slowly starts to move forward, Riku is a bit surprised that Carnage Rush has done no damage to her. She is curious to see what Hina will do next because she was very attentive until now, but it looks like she is a bit relaxed now. This gives her extra confidence as she goes for her next attack, once again altering between kicks and punches without stopping for a second. Riko shouts at her sister to end this fight, while Yuzuna is thinking about how these girls fight like strong beasts. Riku's spirits are still high, and she is determined to cause some serious damage to Hina instead of just simply defeating her. Once again, she uses Carnage Rush, starting with a punch, but Hina avoids the attack and instead punches her straight in the stomach. This time, Hina doesn't hold back as she delivers strong attacks one after another. The mastermind trio is astonished to see how Hina has avoided the attack by twisting her head and then instantly putting Riku in an arm lock. People can't even show this level of skills in the sparring drills, which makes it even more shocking. In the ring, Hina calmly stands back up, saying how she has enjoyed this a lot, and asks Riku to get up because she wants to have more fun. She doesn't seem happy when Riku fails to get back up on her feet. On the sides, Yuzuna is the only one who has noticed that Hina has irregular springs in her body. According to her, tendons are the springs of a human body, and only a few people in the world have stronger tendons than the common people. Strong tendons are what allow humans to have extraordinary power, and this kind of unnatural strength has allowed Hina to be stronger and faster. She is sure that Hina still has some other hidden weapons with her. On the stage, two people come to help Riku lead the stage. Hina calls from behind how she has enjoyed this a lot, and if Riku still has some bones intact, she can come back for another round whenever she wants. Riku leaves the stage while threatening to kill Hina next time. Just then, the MC announces that Hina won the first match, and the crowd erupts into a deafening roar. Ecstatic, Iori says how this is the first time their show got this much of a response. Hana also seems excited as she points out how the betting is also really high. Iori is having a hard time deciding if she should be happy or sad because she also wants to know about chemical weapons. Tenma stops their excited chatter by calmly saying that the response is really good and they should hope it stays the same in the next matches. In the next minute, the MC announces the next match between Riko and Yuzuna. In the ring, Riko is ready to take revenge for her sister. Yuzuna calmly invites her to fight, saying that she can go to the same hospital as her sister. Standing with her friends, Iori says that Riko is the elder sister, and both of them are also known as Savage Sisters. Hana comments that Riku was really savage. Iori tells her how most of the things they heard about the Hina sisters are associated with Riko. They can somehow control Riku, but her elder sister is literally a monster. Facing her opponent, Riko mockingly asks Yuzuna if she will like it if she sends her back to her country with one hit. Yuzuna politely replies that it is nice of her to save her ticket money, but she doesn't need the favor. She adds that the zoo will be happy to get Riko back, so she will make sure to send her there. Staring at the fighters, Tenma tells her friends how Yuzuha is really popular in the underground fighting community. She explains that Yuzuha is the female champion of the most popular underground fighting organization called Slaughter Coliseum, and it is a big deal because there are only a few popular women in underground fighting. At Yori's question about the club, Tenma confirms that Slaughter Coliseum is under the ownership of the Sanba family. According to Yori's knowledge, the Sanba family is associated with the Niwa clan, one of Japan's big three crime organizations. By bringing Yuzuha here, they are almost directly provoking the Niwa clan, and Iori is concerned that they will take this as a challenge. Hana is worried that those mafia organizations will think she is stealing Yuzuha from her, but she also thinks that they should know a small yakuza like her will not mess with them. Iori is still not happy about Yuzuha's presence because it will cost them a lot of money if she gets hurt. Hana agrees with her opinion and thinks that Yuzuha is just here because she saw a better opportunity at this small organization. Surprised, Tenma asks if there are chances of her transferring here permanently, to which Hana replies that it looks like a temporary thing. The truth just annoys her, as she doesn't understand why Yuzuha decided to participate in the tournament. Iori replies that it must be because of money, and Hana adds that she might be under the impression that they have a lot of money. Sighing heavily, Tenma just asks them to pray Yuzuha is not seriously injured in this match. Just then referee Nimura announces the start of the second match, telling the fighters to take their position. When she signs them to fight, no one moves at first, and Yuzuha just invites Riko to attack her first. Looking at her standing position, Tenma recognizes her standing style as something called Sinyi Liu Quan. Taking the bait, Riko moves toward her, asking if she is Jackie Chan, and says how she is a big fan. Her sentence is interrupted when Yuzuha suddenly moves and delivers a kick directed at her face. It is Yuzuha's usual technique to blind her opponent and make sure that she wins the fight without any trouble. Riko quickly recovers from the attack and retorts with a strong punch that Yuzuha blocks using her arm. Seeing Yuzuha block her attack, Riko comments how she is really strong. The blow is so strong that for a moment, Yuzuha is worried that her arm is broken. But she perfectly hides her pain and instead mocks Riko by saying how she still has a good aim even when she is blind. With a big smile on her face, Riko replies that it is normal for fighters to attack their opponent's eyes, so she knows how to handle this. From the sides, Iori says to her friends how the elder Sina's sister is a complete monster, and she just gets angry at any hit that doesn't knock her down. Yuzuha harshly replies that it was not a technique while thinking about how Riko is just a beast acting purely on her instincts. She knows that Riko will be able to see soon, so she needs to defeat her quickly because she is not the real enemy here. Just then, she notices Riko raising her arm in the air and is confused about what is happening. The audience also seems curious about what the fighter is planning to do, and if she is going to deliver a hit like that. Iori starts getting hyped as she realizes how Riko is going all in. Meanwhile, Yuzuha doesn't seem happy that her opponent is taking her so lightly and is fully ready to handle the heavy punch coming her way.